How's the people out there? Bushwhacker Luke. Great to be on the Wolfie D show, and all the fans out there, g'day, matey. Oh!
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Today we welcome Hall of Famer Bushwhacker Luke. How are you doing today, sir?
Bloody lovely, tell your mother.
It's great to have you on, Luke. I saw you, well, I guess it's been, 2-3 years ago since I stopped in your gym when I was living in Tampa. So I want to talk about, man, and me and you kind of touched on this because, you know, most people now, they know you as Bushwhackers. I, however, was a Nashville guy. That's where I grew up, and I grew up on Memphis wrestling. I'm even going to go back further than that, though, because I looked something up, and this I did not know. You and Butch were first called the Kiwis, and y'all were in Canada, I think, doing that. Kiwis? Why that name?
We came into North America in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
And we were known as the New Zealand Kiwis. And a lot of people didn't know what a Kiwi is a New Zealander. You know, like Australia is called an Aussie, a New Zealander is called a Kiwi. Now, Kiwi is a small bird. Well, you've heard of the kiwi fruit. That's
right.
Kiwi fruit. Well, the kiwi is actually the smallest bird and lays the biggest egg for its size. And that's only in New Zealand. It only comes out at night.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Now, if you look at American boot polish and the cans of, you know, the nugget, you brush on your boots to shine them up. There's a little kiwi bird on the container. You'll see a little bird. That's a kiwi bird.
Interesting facts. Like I said, my thing was the Sheepherders. The Sheepherders, and actually, it was not you and Butch when I was watching it, because it was you and Jonathan Boyd there for a long time, because Butch decided to, what I read on the internet, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, that he just, I guess, sort of like homesick or wanted to wrestle closer to home, so he left, and it was you and Jonathan Boyd for a while, correct?
Well, Butch got the Dear John letter. He tried to go home. He tried to go home to put the marriage together.
I see.
Marriage together, but he spent 2 years at home, and then he came back. He joined me in the early 83 in Joe Blanchard's territory. I was the booker there for Southwest Championship Wrestling. But he went home in about 1981.
Mm-hmm.
81. That's when we were in Puerto Rico. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And that's what happened there. But before that, we were the Kiwis, and then we became the New Zealand Sheepherders in 1979 when we came into invaded North America, and we started in Oregon.
You wrestled in so many different territories, just in the territories. And it seems like you always ran into the Fabulous Ones. I mean, that has to be your long-standing best feud, or is it?
No, well, I was booker in a lot of territories, so that's why I didn't run into them. I booked them.
Gotcha.
I booked them because we drew money.
Yeah.
You know,
so that was y'all's best angle of all time, was against them all the time?
No defense. There are two little guys with big hearts who we grew.
Right.
I gave one of them the first break, Bobby Fulton. I gave him his first break, you know, when I was the booker in Tennessee, in Texas. I gave him his first break, and then later on he got with
Tommy.
With Tommy Rogers, and we had a feud. That feud went on all over the South, you know, from Texas over to Florida, over everywhere. You started in Bill Watts' territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other feuds we had, we drew money, was the Tambui Express. Two guys
I remember them.
50 pounds. We drew a lot of money with them. We drew money with big guys too. A lot of big guys. You know, overseas in South Africa, Jan Wilkins, the South African champion, 6'6", 6'5", 280. Him and another guy from England. We drew big money all through South Africa with those two guys. Adara Singh, a guy called Dara Singh from England,
right.
and Jan Wilkins. He was the big South African champion in the 70s and 80s.
Huh.
70s mainly, in the early 80s.
And y'all, back then, you guys were just, it was blood, brawls. I loved it. And like I said, I do remember the feud with the Fantastics. I do remember that. And the Fabulous Ones. Those were the ones that really stuck out to me as a kid. And that was during the times when I had just, really gotten turned on to wrestling. And those were the days when I was like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. So you did play a huge part in making me want to be a wrestler.
That's what we were known as hardcore, really hardcore tag team. And people were saying later that we were hardcore before hardcore became a name brand.
Yeah,
we were doing barbed wire matches, barbed wire cage matches, fire matches, boot camp matches, glove on a pole matches. We made matches up, different matches up to keep the feuds going, and they're all blood and gut matches. And this is from the late 70s right through till we went to Vince.
Right. Your stuff was before there was hardcore, before it had a name, Right.
Getting engaged is a moment worth cherishing. A one-of-a-kind ring that you design at Blue Nile can help your love sparkle. Just choose your diamond and setting. When you've found the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Finding the right engagement ring can be nerve-wracking. At Blue Nile, you'll have the expert guidance needed and a diamond guarantee that ensures you're getting the highest quality at the best price. Cherish all of life's moments and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Hey folks, to get your official Live It in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
I would love to hear a story about Stu Hart.
Well, I'll tell you one thing for a start. We actually worked against Stu Hart. In my life, I've worked against some names that people... Well, I'm going to jump to going to the Hall of Fame. Here I am jumping now. When they said you're going in the Hall of Fame and they put it on the internet, fucking people were, what the fuck are you doing with these two guys? They're old. They've only been clowns in the wrestling business. This is how it was all over the internet. When people that didn't know that we were the Sheepherders, they were saying, why are you putting these two old clowns in the Hall of Fame? And then when we told them that we'd worked with Peter Maivia, the Rock's grandfather, in the 60s, right, in Australia and New Zealand, and Butch Witham in Samoa, and we worked with Killer Kowalski in the 70s and the 60s in Australia. Right. And he's the guy that broke in Triple H and China. And we worked with Stu Hart. We worked with, the Rock's dad. We worked all over the States and in Japan and in New Zealand and Australia. So right, people they were woken up when we heard that we'd been tag teams since '66. I started in 1962.
Who trained you? Who broke you in?
There's a guy that my next door neighbor was a bodybuilder, and he was in New Zealand, and he come second, and the judge said, "Do you want to make some money with that body?" And the judge was a former 1950 Mr. New Zealand. So I'm getting well back before you were even in your father's sack.
Right.
Yeah, you got that one? Anyhow, he said, "Do you want to make some money with that body?" And he didn't. He was former Mr. New Zealand, but now he was a wrestling promoter in New Zealand. and there was only two, one in the capital city, which ran most New Zealand, and there was one in Auckland, which is the biggest city, and he only ran Auckland. And the guy who was Mr. New Zealand said to him, come into the gym. Now, the gym was about 8 miles away from where we lived, and it was like in the Rocky movie, the first Rocky movie, with the steam pipes rattling and kettlebells lying all over the floor, no machines. There was a bench press and a squat rack, and there was a pulley to do triceps.
Right.
And everything was kettlebells lying around the floor. There was two big bars, the 45-pound bars, or there was three. There was one for squatting, and there was one on the bench press. There was two of them. And the rest, and a couple of other bars, but the rest of them were already solid bars. All the bars, for curling and all that, they were solid. You know what I mean? The weights were permanently on. They were molded like that, and the kettlebells, and there was two rings. The floors on the rings were as hard as the floor in your house. They were boxing rings, 20 foot by 20 foot.
Yeah.
And they came up about 9 inches off the floor of the gym to a foot off the floor.
Uh-huh.
And the gym was called Coolman Gym. It was well known in the British countries. New Zealand is under the Queen. Like South Africa, India, Pakistan, Australia. They're all under, and the Caribbean, some of the islands like Jamaica, Trinidad. They're all under the Queen. The British countries.
Gotcha.
So this gym was well known because the Commonwealth Games are the British Games compared to the Olympic Games. Even though New Zealand and Australia go in the Olympic Games, the British countries have the games, and they're called the Commonwealth Games. Have you ever heard that?
No, I never heard that.
You have?
I have, yes, sir.
Yeah. This gym had a lot of boxers and wrestlers from around the world, around the British countries. When they come to New Zealand, this was the gym they went to in New Zealand. It was notorious. They had a lot of welterweight and middleweight and champions, boxing and wrestling. No wrestling champions in New Zealand, but they all came there, the wrestling champions, when they came to New Zealand for tournaments. You know what I mean? Wrestling tournaments.
Yeah.
But the boxing, we had a lot of boxers there. Anyhow, there are the gyms. That's how the gym was. And I started going there in 1961. I was 160 pounds to 170 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
And how I got into business. I'll cut straight to that.
Yeah.
I've been to one wrestling show. We never had we didn't get television until 67 in New Zealand. Now this is 61, 62. I think I'd seen one wrestling magazine that come from the state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've been to one wrestling show in the town hall, Wellington Town Hall. Wellington's the capital. The second one I went with, I'm with Brian, my next door neighbor, whose name is Bruno Becker.
Okay.
I went to a second show with him in Palmerston North. One of the guys, the light heavyweight guys, there used to only be 3 or 4 pro matches, maybe 3 pro matches, and the amateurs up to half time, and then the pros would go on after half time.
Mm-hmm.
Understand that? Amateur wrestlers. That was the first part of a professional wrestling show.
Right.
And then after half time, the pros would come on. And the guy, the light heavyweight or middle or junior heavyweight, whatever, I think it was light heavyweight, didn't ride. Next minute I get a pair of boots thrown to me and a tank top. I had jeans on. I kept the jeans on. I put a tank top on and the boots on. And next minute I was in the ring. Now don't ask me what happened in that match. My first match of my life.
Had they smartened you up yet, or was your first match you just kind of went out there and did whatever?
No, it was semi. No, smarten me up. I've been working on the mat now for 6 or 9 months in the gym, and the light guys were like semi-professionals. They were rugged, they had cauliflower ears and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But I was skiing like a string bean, or whatever, 5'11" and lean. And I was 16, just started 16 years of age. and I had long blonde hair. Anyhow, then I had the name of, my name was Ted Williams. Not my real name, but my name as a wrestler I was known around by my mates here as Ted Williams, right?
Okay.
When I came to the States, they had to change that because of the baseball player.
Right.
Anyhow, that's when I changed. So my gimmick is now I always loved this guy from Australia who used to come over. It was Murphy the Surfy, and he became a royal kangaroo with Jonathan Boyd later on. Anyhow, Murphy was a surfy. He was a gay gimmick. He got it all Gorgeous George. And I heard that sort of gimmick, and I was sweet. I was a Gorgeous Teddy Williams.
All right.
From 1962 to 65, I worked as, at 65, I worked as Gorgeous Teddy Williams.
Gotcha.
And then I put a bit of weight on now. At 66, 65, Jim Barnett. You ever heard of Jim Barnett?
Yeah, I've heard that name from Bill
Jim
Dundee.
Barnett was the gay wrestling promoter who owned He owned part of Florida Championship Wrestling. He owned Georgia Championship Wrestling, a part of Chicago. Jim Barnett is the guy that owned WCW, and he opened up WCW. Right. He was in about 5 territories in the States as partners, but his main one was in Georgia, in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy who got Ted Turner to put wrestling up on the sky. You know, WTBS was the first cable satellite station to have wrestling. And Jim Barnett worked for Crockett's. You know, later on, when he was older, he worked for Crockett's and he worked for Vince. He was a good friend of Vince Sr., but he worked for Vince Jr. later on. Anyhow, he opened up Australia in 65 with American wrestling. And I went over to work for him about 66. You know, this is when Killer Kowalski and all the Buddy Austin, Brute Barnard, the names, Spurs, Arion, Murrow, Millard, big names from the state, and that they were over there. Most of them have passed away now. And he changed my name to Sweet William. Instead of Gorgeous Teddy Williams, he changed my name to Sweet William. And I was Sweet William from then right up till I went until 1979 when we changed to the Sheepherders, and Luke, and I was changed to Luke Williams.
Did you and Butch get put together, or did you put yourselves together?
We put ourselves together. In New Zealand at the time, mate, I just said there was 3 or 4, because amateur wrestling, Butch started in 66. Mm-hmm. I would do a single with a guy, and Butch would do a single, and his single I'd run in, and then they'd have a match after that, and then we'd come back in the tag. Butch and me against the 2 first guys we worked, then it'd be the main event.
Right.
That's how the card worked. When they dropped the amateurs out of it, almost probably the first match of the night. You know, we'd only have 5 matches.
Right.
4 matches on a card, and it was all rounds. You know, the heavyweight matches were 8 8-minute rounds or 8 6-minute rounds. The light heavyweight matches or middleweight matches were 6 5s or 5 5s. And if you didn't do, 6 5s, if I didn't do 5 rounds, the people would be fucking booing. And the heavyweight matches, they're 8-minute rounds. If you didn't do 6 rounds, 6 8 to 48 minutes, the house would be empty next time.
Right.
They got fucked. Anyhow, so what happened was, when they dropped the fucking I would go on first with the guy and work, and then Butch would go on second, and I'd run in or something or other, so to get and then when I ran in to fucking come on the babyface that I worked in would run in to fucking save the other babyface, and that's how we'd put the tag together for later on.
Right.
So we'd work, that's 2 matches, and then they'd have another match with the heavyweight, and then it'll be intermission. So there'd be 3 matches, 3 matches. Then after intermission, Butch and me would come back against the first guy in the first or second match, and then the main event, the heavyweight main event. So that was 5 matches for the night.
Right.
That started more or less in 1966. You know, that first year the Butch started, that sort of happened later on that year. That's when we first started going together.
And when did it was Johnny Ace, was he the first one to wave the flag for you?
No. The first one that waved the flag was Buddy Rose, who was in WWE. Right. Remember Buddy Rose?
Yeah, Playboy.
He was 245 pounds when he worked for Vince Sr., Buddy Rose's Playgirls, and then when he came back for Vince Jr., he was 345 pounds.
Right.
With the blow-away diet.
I remember that. Yeah.
Did you see that? Where he put powder all over his body, and he put the fat on and blew the fat off?
Right.
They always announce him as 217, 270
right,
pounds.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I remember that.
When we went to, we were working, I'm jumping over Stu's territory there. The people that brought us into North America were the Vachon.
Oh, yeah,
and the territory Grand Prix. It was out of Montreal. It did Ontario and Quebec. Little did we know, Ron, we learned, 15, 20 years later, we learned that was the hottest area in North America at that time. That was drawing the biggest crowds regularly. That was, when we arrived there in 1972, Andre had come in 71, late 71, and Killer Kowalski was there. Now, Killer Kowalski had known from Australia. You know what I mean? From 65, he was the guy that busted Australia wide open with an angle, with Jim Barnett and an angle. And Andre, we met Andre well before he comes to North America. He comes to New Zealand and Australia in 69, I think. He worked as Gene Ferrari and that, which he'd been working over Europe and England, and he was 350, 360, 7'4" with a big afro. Butch and me would do handicap matches all around New Zealand and that, and then we'd do tag matches with him and the promoter against me and Butch. So we had known Andre very well. For 3 months he was in, or 2 months he was in New Zealand. We worked with him most every night, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Over the country. So when we came to Montreal through the Vachons, the two main guys, Kowalski was the main heel, and the babyface was Andre, and the company called Grand Prix was running 3 towns a night. And the Rougeaus were opposition, and that Jack and Jock Rougeau, that's the father and the uncle of the Jock Rougeau and Raymond Rougeau, that they were running 1 town a night, so there was 4 towns a night getting run in that area. The wrestling was hot. I'm talking about hot. Toronto, sellouts all the time. You know, the Maple Leaf Garden, the stadiums in Quebec, you know, like Montreal Forum, Quebec Forum, all of them, all sold out. It was just, the business was super hot.
I bet those were awesome times to be in the wrestling business, I would imagine.
And we were working with Dino Bravo was 19 years of age, and then we had Gino Brito, the other Italian. We were working with them, and then we were working with Tony Puglisi and Dominic DiNucci. DiNucci's still alive. He lives in Pittsburgh. He's 80-something. We were working with those 2 Italians. We were working with the first Red Indian that ever went to Europe, Billy Two Rivers, and Johnny War Eagle, the 2 Indians, well-known Indians. And we were working with those. So the main runs were with Gino Brito, Dino Bravo. So I'd known Dino, since he was 19 years of age. Yeah, so then the next territory was Stu Hart. Stu Hart's territory was the most ribs. This is when I really learned what ribs were, heavy ribs.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South, and I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card, Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheep, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Clinton Charisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at stevebowtiebryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
So let me go back. I really want to know this because, okay, so as I told you, the Sheepherders is what I remember you the most as, what I liked you the most as a kid. So in 1989, December of 1989, I was broke into business by Gypsy Joe. That next year, I have a match.
You know, Gypsy Joe, Puerto Rican guy, he was crazy. I've known him since 1981.
He was a tough son of a gun.
Gypsy Joe, mate. There's only one Gypsy Joe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He was good. He was good mother too, and he was just a good person, you know. But at any rate, so the reason I was getting into that, right before I got into the business, I was 16 when I had my first match. I was 15 while he was training me. But before that, from say age 10 till that time, I had a friend, and me and him, you know, big marks. We loved wrestling, and we hated when our favorites would go, you know, they'd be in WCW or wherever, a territory or something, then they'd get to Vince, and Vince would, you know, change the gimmick and kind of make them into cartoon characters. And that's what I could not stand that they did with you. My question to you is, and I know the money was good and the gimmicks were good and all that kind of stuff, but where did he change from the Sheepherders to the Bushwhackers in that style? Were you against it, or were you like, whatever?
I'm going to give you the story.
Okay.
I met the gym in Columbus, Ohio, and I never worked out on my drum. You know, the core? Butch wasted 15 minutes on the drum, on the core. I go out and get all my... I'm working for Jimmy Crockett, NWA, and we just shot an angle with Barry Windham and Lex Luger. We were working with the Rock and Roll Express. And then I go and answer my phone. There's a phone call from Pat. I don't know, pat my back, pat my ass. Who the fuck is Pat? Anyhow, he says, give me this number of call. I give the number of call, and he said, Pat Patterson here. And I said, who? Pat Patterson. And I straight away, the bell rang. Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson, one of the best tag teams ever. You know,
Right.
Really. They were and still are in the books of everybody. Anyhow, I give the phone a ring, and Pat says, hey, I got a guy to talk to you. And the guy says, g'day, Kiwi. This is Vince McMahon. Okay. You know, I've been sending tape to his father. And way back then, it wasn't tapes. It was a fucking big wide what are they called? I forget the name back then. But I've been sending tapes since 1981 to Vince. But he always had big men, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I say, blah, blah. He said, I'd like you guys to come in. When you can come in, straight away I said, when do you want us to come in? And he says, no, I want you to, you know, when you get time off. I said, well, we're off on Wednesday, which we weren't, but we're off on Wednesday. So this is Saturday. Butch comes out of the arena and he says, well, what are you doing? You know, blah, blah. And I said, I just had a call. And he says, who from? I said, I just spoke to Vince McMahon. And he that's you. I've been sending tapes there for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Being in the booker position, I always got my TV crew to put a good tape together. You know, anyhow. So we go up there, and we're in Vince's office, and we're sitting on the other side of the desk. He says, I'd like to make you guys good guys. What do you think of that? And of course, me being old-fashioned in the system, I piped up and said, bring us in as heels and turn us baby faces. Now, I didn't know that you don't tell Caesar what to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Desk, put his nose about a foot away from Vince. Butch got up on Vince's desk, put his nose away about a foot away from Vince's nose. He says, if you can make these faces, baby faces, go for it. And he says, check out my the mugs on my babies. He says, Hulk Hogan, fucking Jake the Snake, Jim Duggan. They haven't got pretty mugs, have they? And then Butch sat back and says, go for it then. So we're going to bring you up and do vignettes with you for about a month or 3 weeks. Every week I'll bring you up and we'll do so many vignettes because I will put them on the shows. At that time, Vince had about, he was on USA Network, but he was on ABC, NBC, CBS, on all the other affiliates too. So that's why we were doing great business because we're on a Sky channel, from the Sky USA, but we're on the other channels too. We get back home, we're on the road. We get home on Monday or Tuesday, and there's what's the name said to us? A Butch rings me up. He says, I got a contract here, but I've sent it to the wrong people. It's to the Bushwhackers. And I said, away. Vince wants to own our name because he does the merchandise, big time merchandise. Yeah. So that was it. So we started coming up, and at that time, Crocodile Dundee 2 was a big movie in all the theaters. Right. Crocodile 2. So we hopped on that train, doing down under shit, wrong side of the street where the cars are driving, we'd walk up people where to go, and we'd ask people directions, and they'd tell us where to go. And, over here, when you tell someone where to go, that means up your fucking ass, you know what I mean? We did a lot of vignettes. I don't know whether you saw any, but there was a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of, they were all comical. And that, now, he gave us the name. He said, I want you to be between the Sheepherders and the Moondogs. And Butch says to me, the Moondogs have been on USA Network for the last 4 years, and we've been on TBS as the Sheepherders for off and on for 9 years. We've worked for Crockett a lot, you know what I mean? Right. We've done NWA territories, like about 4 NWA territories under the banner, but we'd worked out of Charlotte, in 1980 against Snooker, against Steamboat and Youngblood before he died. We'd worked, for him. We'd worked against a lot of people in NWA, and then we come back and we worked later on against, we worked against Jimmy Valiant and partners, Rocky Johnson and all that sort of stuff. And anyhow, so he said do that. And Butch says, well, they've been on and we've been on the other thing. Let's do something completely different. So when we went out, when we used to work as heels, when we went outside the ring, we'd swing our arms up and go, whoa, and I'd do yay to scare the people, you know what I mean? So swing our arms over the barrier, and whoa, yay, and he says, well, let's go to the ring swinging our arms.
Who came up with the walk? Because that's infamous. My shoulders are so fucked, I can't do that. And he says, you Butch said to me, do you want to make money? And then he added, when he smashed and that, and he put his head over the barrier, and the people would rub his head. You know what I mean? Yeah. Rub each other's head in the ring. And then he'd get the people to put their head down. He'd rub their head and give it a lick. When they would put their heads over the rail to get their head licked, I'd put my hand, grab their head with my hand, and I licked the back of my hand. I never licked.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, not like Butch. Anyhow, so that's how we came up with that gimmick. And then now with all the people saying, who had worked with before, and people from Puerto Rico, because we worked a lot in South America, Central America, Panama, Venezuela, Colombia, and all that. And they all said, that were blood and guts. He said, how can you do that sort of shit? And I said, that's fucking, it's easy, mate. Hey, before, he said it's easy because, you know, we were wrestlers. We were NWA, we were wrestlers. WWE, we become celebrities. Celebrities make money, you know, in merchandise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that sold that. You know, they didn't like to tell. We had a lot of people say, "Fuck, we like you, the Sheepherders," and underneath it, Butcher and me are both heels at heart. You know what I mean? We're heels. We used to be able to get the people to stand up, sit down. You know, when we worked with them. Now, you know, with Bobby Fulton and that Fantastics, they'd worked with tag teams, but they, you know, we used to tell them. They were fighters before. They were wrestlers. We turned around and became fighters, and we said, you know, listen to the people. And we used to tell them, let's stand them up. Let's sit the people down. We could do that with the people because we had that fucking psychology and that heat. We could be fucking doing dirty stuff. Then we'd let them fire up and come back, and the people would stand up and start cheering, and we'd let them get to so far, and then we'd cut them off again, not let them go all the way. And then, you know, we taught a lot of people psychology. Mm-hmm. And the stage, when we went for Flint's, I know I'm jumping his head again. When we went to Vince, we worked with a lot of teams that Vince were very green. I'm talking about green. And the nasty people, they'd come in and they'd be working. They worked in your area, you know, around there, but at the time it was only drawing 200 to 400 people at a show, you know what I mean? Right. It was in the late 80s, it was dead. And they were on top. They were on top of Byrd, drawing 200 people. They had no idea. Vince liked them because they looked nasty. They were two big guys, 350. They had a different look, and he put them with us for a year and a half. Boy, the first 6 months, 4 months, they'd punch you. The punch looked the shits, but it might have only been outside your body 6 or 8 inches, but it felt like it sunk into your body 6 or 8 inches. The story. It was fucking unreal. You know, we got them to work in the end. We got them to learn to work in the end, and they realized how the business was instead of what they were doing. Same as the Beverly Brothers. Same as all the teams he put us. There was only a few good teams that he put us with that were working before. Tom Pritchard and his partner. You know, they were the bodies. Yeah, Tom and his partner were good workers. You know, there was a few teams, but the rest, the Rougeos were good, but they hated doing jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Racing was okay, but Jock hated doing jobs. You know what I mean? And, who else? The Bolsheviks. You know, Boris was a hell of a worker. I'd known him since he started in 1981 in Charlotte. And Nikolai was rough around the edges, but the people hated him and he drew money. You know what I mean? Right. They wanted to see him get his ass kicked.
Private Jim Nelson.
You know, a river they put on Jim Nelson, mate. They told him he had painted leather boots, white, when he started. And they told him the only way to keep them, the paintings, without cracking them, put them in the fridge every night. So after the match every night, home, and he's put his boots in the fridge. Now, this is straight up, mate, because he had a flatmate with him, apartment mate with him. We're all living in the Holiday Inn at Tuckasegee Road in Charlotte. This was in the early 80s, and there was units. They had units, 2 bedrooms and a lounge kitchen, and they had blocks and blocks of these units like that. And they were living there, and he was living there, and his partner told us, the person in there told us that they had the boys coaxed him, told him he had to put them in the fridge. That's how greedy he was.
That's hilarious.
And he became one hell of a worker, mate. One hell. You know, Nikolai got all the praise in that, but it was Boris. Boris kept that team alive.
Didn't you use the headlock battering ram thing, that was y'all's finish there. Had y'all ever used that before?
Yes, we did the battering ram before, too.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I'm going to ask you a question just because we kind of touched on it earlier, and you said there was only one Gypsy Joe, and having been trained by him, give me a good Gypsy Joe story.
That's right. I know some of the bumps he took. He used to go over the top rope, not even hold it, and go into the first row. You know what I mean? If we went out, if they threw him outside, you know. Right. As hard as nails. But, mate, I've had 17,000 matches at least, and it's hard to. I can't even remember the matches I had with WWF. I remember a part of two, which were the notorious ones that I had in my lifetime, which I'll always remember. You know, I don't know the finishes, but I remember going to the ring and that two of them, and that's the main ones that I've always remembered when I've come to these podcasts and interviews. But the rest I don't remember.
100% understandable. 100% understandable.
So, one of those matches has to be the 1991 Royal Rumble. You walk to the ring, Earthquake chucks you out, you walk back out, and you're doing the same Bushwhacker move.
Like an ever-ready battery, mate. I kept on thinking.
yeah, it was all.
I got hot at Vince. You know, that's one thing that I'm mad at Vince about. 218, that was the last time he played that clip pre-Royal Rumble.
Right.
He played it right. 201, or was it 91 or 92? What year was that?
1991. Yeah, it was the 1991 Royal Rumble.
From 92 went up to 218. Every build up for Royal Rumble, every time week and all the shows, he put that clip on. He marched into the ring, Earthquake grabbing me and going out and kept on, and then he stopped it in 218. And I still used to get asked in airports, you're the one that got marched in and marched out. That people don't remember a wrestler. They remember the character and thing like that. And that arm swinging, and they remember just landing, going out, and bang, 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 doing that march.
Right. I remember your action figures doing the moves, too. As a kid, I had your little Hasbro action figures, the tag team. And your move, you actually did the moves with the figure. I remember that was one of the best parts of those figures.
Even the last ones they put out, 218, the arm swing on those too. You know,
right?
We've got a legend contract, and they still do all those. You know, they still put stuff out about us.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Man, everybody knows who the Bushwhackers are. You know, Sheepherders, Bushwhackers, but everybody knows who you guys were. You had a great career, and like I said, man, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on here and doing this for me. I know Jimmy feels the same way. So, Jimmy, I have a current event with Luke.
So, if you don't mind, DJ, hit the music.
It's a current affair. It's a current affair. It's a current affair.
All right, we're back with Bushwhacker Luke. Luke, we've got you here, and while I've got you, I have to ask the first question. How is Butch doing?
As health-wise, it's been much better, but he ripped all the tendons off his wrist, and he's been in such pain, and Butch is, he's a year and a half older than me. Earlier on in the 70s and 60s, he had a gym in his home, and he's always in the gym and now he's going crazy because he can't go in the gym because he's got these torn tendons in his wrist, and tendons, how long they take to heal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he's an old buck. The old saying is he's an old dog for the hard road.
Send him our best, please. We wish him a good recovery on that.
And he's supposed to be here come WrestleMania time, March and April. We had actually 28 bookings. In the last 2 years, we had to cancel. And this year, at the moment, New Zealand's closed up, so he can't even... It's a 120-day waiting list to get back in New Zealand. You have to go through New Zealand quarantine. They've got 6,500 rooms, and they've got a list of people. It's 120 days on the waiting list to get in.
Wow.
Yeah. New Zealand, though, at one point, if I'm not mistaken, they had it pretty much figured out, right? They had cleared out most of the...
It's only had 28 deaths, mate. There's no... one person came in this year. I think they've had about 3 people come in with the virus, but a Samoan came in about 3 months ago from somebody had been back home in Samoa and came back and then went to the church and passed it in the church, and that's why it's on that's lockdown again. And when it's on lockdown, gas only places open are gas and food things.
Yeah. So the next question for current affairs, basically, I wanted to ask you the current state of New Zealand wrestling. I know America, we have Dakota Kai right now. I know New Japan has Bad Luck Fale. How is New Zealand wrestling? Do you pay attention to it much these days?
You know, most of the top wrestlers in New Zealand are in England or Japan. There's quite a few New Zealand wrestlers in Japan. I've got the names of them, but I can't remember them at the moment, mate, because and I know Dakota Kai's over here now. She's cracked it in she's in NXT, isn't she?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and there's quite a few of them in England too. The main wrestling company is in Auckland. There's one down in Invercargill, Queensland. That's the south. There's 2 islands, New Zealand, north and south. And the bottom of South Island, there's a company down there too. Because the owners come over and visited me here. But they're the only 2 companies that are doing great business. You know, like every time they run, they have maybe 500 to 1,000 people. You know, they just do small shows every month.
So, okay, this is kind of a theoretical question. If you guys were starting out today, where in the current landscape do you see you fitting, essentially? Where would you guys work the best, and how would you go about making that happen?
Mate, current affairs. Well, I'm a WWE man, mate. I can't. Vince looked after us, so I cannot knock that. But I would see us back there. I would see us there working in the system there with the all those babyfaces are high flyers. You know, Kiwi birds don't fly, mate. We're grounded.
Right.
Which to me would be heels for certain today. There's a lot of babyfaces we could work with.
Right.
Where can the people find you, Luke? On social media, or you're taking bookings, I'm sure?
Yeah, mate, social media. Go to my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is Bushwhacker Luke. My website, bushwhacker.com. I have action figures there. I have buddies. Go to the site, and you can see everything I have. T-shirts, lunch boxes, everything. For Bushwhackers merchandise, bushwhackerluke.com, and to contact me at Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or go to bushwhackerbrand@gmail.com for booking. Thank you. It's great to be on your show, Wolfie, and I hope to see you down the road.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh!
Everybody, this is Wolfie D for Jimmy Street and Bushwhacker Luke saying thanks again for tuning in and listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all. And all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at GeneJacksonPod.com.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
This is your rock star ring announcer, Aaron Camaro. I'm a man who believes the two greatest art forms ever created are professional wrestling and heavy rock music. So when I'm not hosting the best parties that also happen to be live professional wrestling shows, I'm hosting the Decibel Geek Podcast. Decibel Geek is a weekly podcast that features discussions of all things rock. We're talking the Beatles, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Black Sabbath, Kiss, Ozzy, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Alice in Chains, Pantera, and everything in between. Plus, we'll turn you on to new bands from today that have the same spirit and style that the legends do. Decibel Geek is hosted by myself along with Rockin' Pod founder Chris Sinzak, and each week you'll get interviews with famous musicians and industry insiders along with informative, entertaining, humorous, and insightful discussions, and most importantly, a passion for the music. So if you love to rock out as much as I do, then this is your invitation to the greatest rock and roll party in all of podcasting. It's Decibel Geek, and it's available right now on all major podcast platforms. Oh yeah!
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at WarrenWolf13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap
He got a cap for your dome.
And here we go. The original white boy that came out sagging, not bragging, don't be hating, cause I'm spitting the truth. Still livin' in color. Don't rush your mother, utilize a hubcap unlike any other. Back in the day, I was N-O-D, and I was P to the G, plus the 1 and the 3. In case you forgot, they call me Wolfie D. Been cloned and copied so many times, tired of suckers taking credit for what is mine. You know who you are without me name dropping. Wrestling's first white boy coming out hip-hop. Been doing it like this since 92. Laid low for a while and you thought I was through. Listen real close to these rhymes that I've injected. This shit's so sick it makes your ears get infected. Mad skills, no faking, there is no one great. Cause I'm bringing more folks than Obi-Wan or Vader. Not here to play games, so you better beware. You don't like me, so what? I really don't care. Like time I keep ticking and I can't be stopped. You sucker step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. With my finish, I'll straight knock you out. Please allow me to tell you what it's all about. I'm gonna wind it up, then I'm driving it home. It's Wolfie D, baby. I got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome.
We got a cap for your dome. We got a cap for your dome.
This has been a James Rock Street production.